beginning, the more I watch, the more I understand this was an attempted coup. That's a Republican member of the House who just texted me that. I mean, I think people are watching videos like this and seeing people outside with binoculars and fatigues and military outfits, and we're realizing that our government, our institution has failed us. I don't know who deserves most of the blame on the security side. Obviously, the Capitol Police were not adequately prepared. I think a lot of that probably has to do with the leadership, but it's just a failure on so many profound levels here, and just absolutely a stunning failure, by our political leaders as well. But I think people are, to say they're shaken is an understatement, Stephanie. There's going to have to be from people like McCarthy and people in the Republican Party and just the leadership generally, there needs to be a meaningful reflection on how we got to this point from a political and substantive point of view.
A reflection indeed. Anna, Jake, thank you both so much. We got a lot to cover, so we're going to leave it there. Coming up next, President Trump locked out of his beloved megaphone, Twitter. Facebook, and one of his biggest far-right platforms is now offline. Is this a turning point for tech companies fighting back against hate speech?
Impeachment. It's the constitutional way of saying, bye, Felicia.
Magical, wonderful road to impeachment, who knows where to go.
That's probably presidential harassment.
President Trump has been accused of threatening to hold back military aid to the Ukraine if leaders there fail to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden.
The president pushed 8 times for an investigation into Joe Biden. At the time of the call, the Trump administration was withholding $250 million in military aid to Ukraine that Congress had already approved.
Yeah, this is huge. Donald Trump is accused of holding back military aid approved by Congress for Ukraine unless they helped him dig up dirt on Joe Biden, which, if true, would be devastating. It's an abuse of power, it's extortion, and maybe worst of all, it's asking a foreign country to meddle in America's election. Yeah, which is the one thing that if you were Donald Trump, you should stay away from, right? Because they'd just beaten the Russia case. It would be like if the day after Michael Jackson got acquitted of touching kids, he was like, let's celebrate, slumber party at my house. But the one silver lining of any Trump scandal is that if you just wait long enough, eventually, he'll just spill the beans himself.
The conversation I had was largely congratulatory, was largely corruption, all of the corruption taking place, was largely the fact that we don't want our people, like Vice President Biden and his son, creating to the corruption already in the Ukraine.
There was no pressure put on them whatsoever, but there was pressure put on with respect to Joe Biden. What Joe Biden did for his son, that's something they should be looking at.
Okay, we all heard that, right? Trump just said there was no pressure except for the pressure to get dirt on Biden. That's the only pressure we're talking about. On Monday, the Ukraine scandal blew up. On Tuesday, the Democrats opened an impeachment inquiry. On Wednesday, the transcript of the call came out. And today, the big news is that the secret whistleblower complaint that kicked this whole thing off has finally been released.
The House Intelligence Committee has just released the whistleblower complaint. This is the second paragraph of that complaint from the whistleblower, who says, in the course of my official duties, I have received information from multiple U.S. government officials that the President of the United States is using the power of his office to solicit interference from a foreign country in the 2020 U.S. election.
That's right. The whistleblower's complaint has accused the president of soliciting foreign interference in America's election, which is really bad for Trump. What's even worse is that this entire complaint is only 9 pages long, which means people might actually read it. Hell, if it had a few pictures, Trump himself might even read it. Trump and his defenders are saying that the whistleblower's account is fake, all right? Because they say that the whistleblower is basing all of this on secondhand information. He didn't hear the calls and he hasn't seen anything himself. They also point out that the president of Ukraine himself said yesterday that he never felt any pressure from Trump. Although, if you actually watched the Ukrainian president say it, you might come up with a different impression. President Zelensky, have you felt any pressure from President Trump to investigate Joe Biden and Hunter Biden?
I think you read everything. So I think you read text. I'm sorry, but I don't want to be involved to democratic, open elections of USA. No, you heard that we had, I think, good phone call. It was normal. We spoke about many things, and so I think, and you read it, that nobody pushed me. Yes.
In other words, no pressure.
Okay, I don't want to contradict the president, but I don't think the translation of that was no pressure. That man seemed like he was under intense pressure. I mean, he actually said the line, I don't want to get involved. I mean, that's not a comfortable phrase you ever say when you're just comfortable. How are you feeling? I don't want to get involved. I'm so comfortable. You can't ask him that question in front of Trump. It's like asking the hostage how he's being treated while the kidnapper is right next to him. Oh, how are they treating me? Oh, it's